Welcome, students. We are still in Chapter 4, focusing on tissues. This one will focus on muscle tissue and nervous tissue. So we have three types of muscle tissue that we find in the body: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. Some of the characteristics that they share in common is that they are all highly vascularized and innervated, so lots of blood vessels, lots of nerves. They are contractile and extensible, meaning they can both shorten and stretch, and that contraction and extension, the kind of shortening and stretching and shortening and stretching, allows muscle tissues to produce movement. Sometimes that movement is kind of the gross movement of our body, how we walk, how we talk, our facial expressions. That's provided by our skeletal muscles. Cardiac muscle is providing the movement of our heart, so that the pumping action of our heart. And smooth muscle is found in the walls of our hollow organs. So we find it in our blood vessels to help blood move through the body. We find it in our digestive tract to help food move through the digestive tract. We find it in the urinary tract in order to move urine, and then also in the reproductive tracts as well, in order to help those types of processes. So we have two what we call striated muscles, meaning they are striped like zebras. That's skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. Since smooth muscle lacks striations, that's where it gets that kind of smooth name from, because it's a little smoother in appearance. Two of the muscles are involuntary, one of them is voluntary. So skeletal muscle is a voluntary muscle, meaning you have to consciously choose to walk, to stand upright, to kick a ball, to gesture with your hands, to make a silly face at a baby, to talk even, and move those muscles. So skeletal muscle is voluntary. Cardiac muscle and smooth muscle are involuntary, meaning you don't have to consciously choose to do them. Parts of your nervous system that are involuntary, that are kind of subconsciously do them and activate these muscles. I mean, could you imagine if you had to tell your heart to beat? I mean, you beat 70 beats per minute every hour of every day, you'd pretty much be doing nothing but telling your heart to beat, if you had to do that consciously. But you do not have to do that, nor do you have to tell, you don't have to say, hey, hamburger, it's time to move out of the stomach and into the small intestine, because the smooth muscle in the GI tract is involuntary. So 2 striated muscles, 1 smooth, 2 involuntary muscles, 1 voluntary. The last major type of tissue in the body is nervous tissue. And nervous tissue is our really kind of regulatory control communication tissue. The reason nervous tissue is our communication tissue is it has this ability to conduct electrical impulses. Your brain is like essentially just a whole hive of electrical activity. There are two primary types of nervous cells. One of them are neuroglial cells, and there are multiple types of neuroglial cells that we'll get into when we get to the nervous system, but the neuroglia are like support cells. They help the neurons do their job, and it is these neurons that are the cells that are responsible for transmitting this kind of electrical impulse information. And essentially what will happen is it will receive a signal potentially from another neuron, move across the body of the neuron, and then down what we would call the axon, thence to another neuron. And so they have these really long processes that hang off of them like this, since those processes extend down to the toes and out to the organs, and that they have this ability to kind of transmit this electrical information. That is how our body communicates, and how the brain and spinal cord control and kind of be the boss of all of the other organs of the body. So those are muscle and nervous tissues. So with connective tissues, epithelial tissues, muscle tissues, nervous tissues, those are the 4 major tissue types of the body.